Hello, everyone. How are you doing? My name is Tamara Taggart, and I am so happy to be here. I'm joining you from the traditional territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, and I am honored to be raising my 3 children here on this beautiful land where we play, learn, and spend our best times together. Welcome to Deyen, an invitation to transform. We have lots in store for you this afternoon and a lot of really great guests. And it'll be a beautiful, well, just over an hour that we spend together on this little journey here. But before we get things started, it is really my pleasure to introduce you to Syexwaliya and Whonnock from Squamish First Nation. Syexwaliya?
Tl'etinqox in Squamish language, that means welcome. I welcome you to Deyen and acknowledge and respect all the First Nation ancestral lands where you live, work, and play. I'm here in my Tl'etinqox, I'm in my Squamish Nation village of Aslahan on the north shore of North Vancouver, where we have several of our villages. So I'm really honored to be here to open you today and asking you to come together in Chomo and Squalwin. In Squamish, that means one heart and one mind. To Tl'etinqox, stand and work together to hold each other up, support one another, and help each other by learning together as knowledge carriers in your own right, and transferring that knowledge to each other. My elders of the Coast Salish believe that we all have an energy within ourselves and that we receive spiritually energy we get from Creator through the crown of our head to our energy within us. And you can't have your arms crossed, hands like this or this, because you're blocking your own energy and you're blocking receiving energy from each other. So I usually, when I'm in person, say, now we're going to do Tai Chi and yoga breathing. And Chastity would be good at yoga breathing. So I usually make people just relax, put their hands wherever they're comfortable, and take 4 breaths. And feel the energy coming within you. Your own energy, Creator's energy, and from each other. And so I'm going to ask Adira to put her hands down and be open and receiving, not crossed or like this, but open. And then because our old people believe wherever you are, you can send the energy to each other. And I believe that. And that's why I'm a Star Wars fan and believe in the Force. And so, let's send our energy to each other and to the presenters who are going to share. I'll do a part of Syexwaliya's song, greeting of the day, do a prayer, and then turn you back over to Tamara and your awesome afternoon together. So while I sing, I ask you to pray for each other and all your family and friends. Chaka, Chenquemen Tomi Kakakanak Trasium, Yonzo Manman Squawin, Yonzio Manman Equato Chet Squawin, Siai Chet Squawn, asking you, Creator, to watch over and protect and guide each and every one of your children gathered here today, and also their families and friends, and help them with their squawin, the feelings in their hearts and minds, their emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual health and well-being. Asking you, Creator, to help each and every one of your children to be in Chomo and Squawin, Chen Chen Stwite, Yonsio Snachum. Asking you to help them be one heart and one mind, standing and working together to hold each other up, and to use their Snachum to speak the words respectfully, listen respectfully, take into your heart what's meant for you, set aside what you don't need today, and bring back another day, and be able to transfer knowledge, experience, and ask questions and share in a way that creates a good future, present and future for all of us. Asking you, Creator, to hear our prayers for all our family and friends who have serious illnesses, traumas, and battles with alcohol and legal and illegal drugs, and for all of our families who have lost loved ones and are in sorrow. Hear our prayers to help lift them up and help them through their time. And for all of us to remember, Creator, that our loved ones who have gone home to the ancestors send us spiritual help when we need it, when we feel low or heavy from work. And we see a dragonfly that many of us believe our ancestors visiting. When you see a dragonfly, ladybug, butterfly, hummingbird, eagle, wolf, something that when you're feeling low brings a smile and lightens your heart, that's spiritual help from a loved one. So they're always our guardian angels and walking with us. Always remember that, and Creator, help them to remember and to help them take care of themselves so they can keep helping others. Tuma Kwitsi Snachum, those are my words. Chen Quinn Mentomi, I'm grateful and thankful to each and every one of you for allowing me to share a little part of your day. And as my late son shared and taught me, top left, from the heart, I send you love, peace, and air hugs, and say, Wachayap yo. You all take care and have a Yetwan Haltzaitsa, an excellent day. And I'll turn it back over to Tamara.
Syexwaliya, thank you so much. That was beautiful. Thank you very much for that and for sharing. Wow. Okay. I feel emotional already, so thank you. Thank you. Next, Chastity is obviously here because this is why we all are here. She has brought us here together. I met Chastity in August, virtually. I met her August of 2020. I feel like I have known her for a very long time, but really we haven't even known each other for a year. And already I have learned so much from her. She has provided me with the opportunity to learn. And there were so many things that I was unaware of until I was introduced to Chastity. And so I feel incredibly grateful for it. I feel she is a true connector. She knows how to bring people together and share stories and teach us how we can all make a difference together as we lift each other up. And I'm forever grateful for her. So Chastity, this is yours, Deyen, and with the help of a lot of people I know, but I look forward to you explaining to us all what Deyen is.
Thank you, Tamara, for the kind words and the welcome. And thank you so much, Syexwaliya, for answering the call, accepting the invitation to open us up in a good way, to share your language, your spirit, your song, and your traditions with us. And I've known Syexwaliya for a couple of years now, and anytime I ask her to and invite her to show up and share, she always says yes. And that is our ways of being, our traditional ways of being, to support each other and to stand with each other, like Syexwaliya said. And she embodies that. She embodies that spirit of graciousness and giving and oneness. So thank you, Syexwaliya, for being here. And I just want to say a huge welcome to the 700 people that registered to come and be with us here today for the launch of a really exciting new online learning platform titled Deyen. And Deyen is a Tsilhqot'in word for a person with the power to transform. And the tagline of that is Deyen, an invitation to transform. So before I go any further, I just want to recognize the traditional territory of the Squamish peoples, whose traditional lands I am an invited guest to. And I live here with my Tsilhqot'in husband, Chief Joe Alphonse, who you will be hearing from shortly. And I'm so grateful to be a visitor on these territories and to be welcomed in by the Williams Lake First Nation Chief Willie Sellers, so that I can be in my life here. And I'm just thrilled that you all came today to witness this work. And over the coming days, I've been talking with my team that you'll meet as we go through this process today, just that this is the ancestors at work. This is the ancestors whispering to all of you to answer the invitation to come and transform. And I'm just thrilled about that. And I'll talk a little bit about my journey to Deyen and who I am and how I come to this work. So I'm a mixed heritage woman of Tla'ammin and European descent. I'm Tla'ammin on my mother's side, and Tla'ammin is located on the Sunshine Coast, just a few minutes outside of what's known as Powell River today. And our community is right on the beach, so we're part of the West Coast Salish peoples. And I'm reminded by my one of my beautiful friends, Monique Gray Smith, that I'm a Tla'ammin woman, and that the ocean is part of who we are. And so when the ocean and tide comes in twice a day, it takes away the negativity and brings in an invitation for newness. And so I remember that every day. And I'm so thankful for the strength and resiliency of my ancestors in Tla'ammin and my mother, who went to the Seashell Residential School for 4 years. And so grateful for them to be a living modern day embodiment of what it means to be Tla'ammin and what it means to be an Indigenous woman. And I'm also English and Ukrainian on my father's side. My father, Charles Davis, is here with us today. So happy he could be here to support this work as well. And my father raised me since I was 7 years old as a single dad. And just encouraged me to go after my dreams and to also just be who I am and speak the truth. And so I'm just really grateful that he's here today and that many of my other Davis family is here. So thank you all for being here to support this work. I've come by this work honestly and from an organic place. I have been working in Indigenous relations for about 15 years. And I've worked across all sectors with the federal government, the provincial governments, with Indigenous organizations such as the Assembly of First Nations, the BC Assembly of First Nations, the Ontario Assembly of First Nations, and wonderful leaders across Canada. With corporate Canada, there's lots of corporate people here today, so thank you for taking the time to tune in. With Indigenous communities, I've worked actually inside and traveled to about 125 First Nation communities of the 203 in British Columbia, and been on an extensive journey learning about Indigenous peoples and learning about our lived experiences and learning about our traditional knowledge and learning that the women were and are the leaders of the communities and these traditional lands. And I've been dedicated my personal and professional life to working with Indigenous women in a variety of roles, from advocacy, grassroots advocacy, to attending the February 14th march for a number of years when I'm in town and I can do that, and raising awareness to the thousands of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in this on these lands now known as Canada. Also all the way through to working in teaching yoga to Indigenous women, in leadership and upliftment. And so the Deyen is really a combined experience of my lived experience, my research, my education. And Deyen is my contribution as one mixed heritage Indigenous woman to the movement and to the upliftment of Indigenous women on these lands now known as Canada. I just want to qualify that by saying that Deyen has received no government funding, zero government funding, and that the creation of Deyen and this launch is solely from who I am as one Indigenous woman in Canada. And the people that have come to be a part of this movement have come forward as individuals, have come forward out of wanting to be a part of the movement, and wanting to uplift Indigenous women into their rightful roles as the matriarchs of the original lands that we're all living on here in Canada. And so that's a beautiful statement that this is really an organic grassroots movement and I'm only one woman. So this is just my contribution, and a small contribution to really feeling within my whole being that change needs to happen on these lands, and that we need to do it together, and that we need to be standing together and uplifting each other and learning about our traditional knowledge that has existed on the lands for thousands of years. And that's how I've come to Deyen, is in a really humble, organic way. And this is my small contribution. And so I just want to share that up front before we move in. And the first set of modules that Deyen will be launching is called Canadian History Through the Lens of Indigenous Women. And it features 6 Indigenous women, Métis, Inuit, and First Nations women sharing their lived experience as it relates to the creation of Canada, and stories that many of us have not had the opportunity to be exposed to for various reasons. And in this time and space, Indigenous women are rising and have lots to contribute to our society. And it's important that we learn from them. So Deyen is an online learning hub that centers the lived experience, the wisdom, and the traditional knowledge of Indigenous women. And so it's not just my knowledge, it's creating a platform and space for all Indigenous women to be invited to be a part of. And this is the first set of modules that we are releasing. And there'll be many subsequent modules going forward. And so I look forward to talking more about Deyen as we move forward here. You can see in the chat that you can look it up at deyen.ca, and the course is launching today. And the first 100 people that sign up get 15% off. And we'll talk a little bit more about the course at the end, but really wanting to share this space with the team that's been a part of this. We have many sponsors that have taken part, and the lead tech sponsor and marketing sponsor is Spyro Creative. Adira is here in the background, and she's been supporting the launch of this. We also have Indigenous, Bradley Shend, who's here, and Capilano University and MyTax, and our 2 students that have been working very hard. You'll get an introduction to them at the end as well to get this up online. So just very grateful from the bottom of my heart. And you'll learn more about what Deyen means from my husband, who's coming up next, and more opportunity for dialogue. And I'll pass it back over to Tamara. Thank you very much, all my relations.
Thank you, Chastity. So I'm super excited about this, and I know, well, you can tell that Chastity is very excited about it, and I think this is, this is an opportunity for so many people to learn from our original knowledge keepers, and to share this with everyone. And I was talking to Chastity about this last week, and I asked her, I said, is this a course that's only for adults, or is it only for women, or is it only for, like, could teenagers take it? Could my daughters take it? And we had a great conversation about how this is for everyone, and this is for, I wish I had an opportunity like this course when I was a young girl, because I would have known the truth about so many things and heard the original stories, instead of learning all about it in my 50s. So Chastity, thank you. Thank you for that. Now, I have never met Chastity's new husband. They're newlyweds. And I'm very excited to meet virtually Chief Joe Alphonse, who is going to join us right now and explain the meaning of Deyen, and talk a little bit more about things that are important around this course. Chief Joe, Chastity said I'm allowed to call you Chief Joe. So am I allowed to call you Chief Joe?
Yes.
Okay, good. I don't want to be too casual. It's very nice to see you. So welcome.
Tl'etinqox, Gulun, Janganzin, Zingun Shaw, Tl'kaya, Tl'kainanado, Tl'etinqox, Tl'kainasum. I'd like to take the time just to welcome everyone. This is a big day. This is it's about empowering our women as First Nation people. This is the stronger our women are, the healthier and the better place and communities that we come from. My history, I spent my entire career fighting to create a better space for Indigenous people, and I was part of the team right from day one to completion to win Aboriginal title. The first Indigenous group in Canada to win Aboriginal title, the first Indigenous people internationally to win Aboriginal title, a major feat, whatever and stuff. And you'll have lawyers and politicians often will point to certain aspects of our case and say it was for this reason we won title. But if you ask me, it comes right back down to our belief and our confidence in who we are, and all of that stem from our mothers. Our mothers all throughout Tsilhqot'in territory that never allowed us to think otherwise, to teach us all of our Syexwaliya teachings, and to be proud of those teachings. If any one group and if any one person can say, give reason, it would be to our women. And, it's the wisdom, their strength. So to bring back our matriarchs, bring back before contact our leadership light with women. The last woman that was within my community was Tudut, and her name was meaning waiting for water, whatever. So it's if anything we can do when we on the eve of our case coming out, we said finally they're starting to see us as a people. But even more so, we want that strength to come back to our women. Deyen, from my teachings, Tl'etinqox teachings, and from our spiritual leader, the late Lashwi Sam, he taught me that all of us, not just some of us, and not only special ones, but all of us have that special gift within us. But it's only that some of us recognize that strength and pursue that. And when you get those gifts, those powers, or however you want to look at that, we refer to that as Deyen. And that's the power, the person that possesses power to change. And whether it's for medical or whatever, often our Deyen would be the only people that would have the power to transform. They could change their form, physical form and stuff. So I had mentioned the chastity. This is what we're trying to do. This is what you're trying to do, is transform people's images of what the Indigenous and the role of the Indigenous woman in this world. So you're empowering, you're giving. So call it Deyen. Deyen. To me, that's a very, very powerful word, and it speaks of the power we all possess. Recognize that power and allow yourself to look at Indigenous women in a different way. And by doing that and giving that is going to turn around and allow the general public to view our women differently, to view our Indian nations differently, Indigenous nations and stuff. And by doing that, we're going to create a better space for all of us. It's only when we recognize those rights and those Indigenous people that Canada will finally reach its full potential. Until then, we have to keep striving. So I'm really honored to be a part of this today, to be a part of so many powerful women on screen, and I'm really grateful for 700 people that are viewing this today. There's a strong interest. The way things wasn't right, but there's always a chance to stop and turn and change things as we move forward and help and create a better future for Indigenous women, and creating stronger nations and better relations altogether. So channel Tilhqot'in, kind of some Tenzin Tsilhqot'in. Be well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chief Joe. Thank you. And I love Deyen, the power, a person who has the power to transform. It's beautiful, beautiful. So thank you for sharing that with us. And nice to meet you finally virtually. So we, when Chastity put this course together, she obviously had some test students, if you will, who went through the pilot program. And it's really important to have that feedback. And also for us who are watching and learning about Deyen, to understand the impact of the course for somebody. So I'd like to introduce you now to Marissa Nobauer. And Marissa is with TELUS. She's a manager there of Indigenous Connectivity and Reconciliation Initiatives. And she was a partner in our participant in the pilot program, Canadian History Through the Lens of Indigenous Women. So Marissa, if you don't mind, we would love to hear from you now about your experience.
Thank you, Tamara. And thank you to Elder and Matriarch Syexwaliya from Squamish Nation for the beautiful welcome you provided to us today. I'm joining you from the unceded territory of the Coquitlam people, where I have the privilege to live with my husband, Eli, and our preschooler, Bertie, and where we spend our time exploring the banks of the Coquitlam River, which the Coquitlam people have stewarded since time immemorial. I'm the grandchild of German-Dutch immigrants who left Europe after living through 2 world wars, seeking a better life on my father's side. And on my mother's side, I'm the descendant of Jewish migrants who fled the anti-Semitism in the late 19th century in what is now Eastern Ukraine. I have dedicated my career in life to playing a meaningful part in the reconciliation journey. Chastity, thank you for inviting me to speak today. I do not take the responsibility lightly, and I'm humbled by the trust you've placed in me. Dr. Williams of Tla'ammin Nation, Maureen Grubin, an Inuvik woman, Denise Williams of Cowichan Tribes, Dr. Vanderwool of Numgis, Shireen Beniz of Métis Heritage, and Sarah Robinson from Fort Nelson and Saulteau First Nations. My hands are raised to you. Thank you for your leadership, for sharing your knowledge and your experience with us, and for doing the labor of informing people like me. Reconciliation is a journey that individually we as non-Indigenous peoples must be active participants in. We must be willing to do that work day in and day out. And that journey begins with listening, it begins with learning, and it begins with reflecting. It requires openness and humility, as through education and ongoing internal reflection, we work to dispel the falsehoods we were taught and the stereotypes with which we were socialized. And at an individual level, it really requires us to actively work to replace the biases and histories we learned with a more honest, more accurate, and nuanced truth of our shared history. In creating Deyen, Chastity has made educating ourselves the easy part. Deyen is a foundational course for all Canadians, and it can support you regardless of where you are in your reconciliation journey. It elevates and uplifts the voices of the original matriarchs of this land. It provides voice to women who have been intentionally excluded from the traditional narrative. With humor, and there's humor, with wisdom, with bravery, Deyen digs into a very real and very vibrant reality and history that is absent in our history books and quite often overshadowed in our popular media. Deyen reminds all of us about the resiliency and strength with which Indigenous women have and continue to lead. And just take a moment to think of the resiliency of Chastity and her ancestors, the knowledge holders you will learn from in Deyen and their ancestors. It has taken resiliency. In addition to furthering my education on the rich and vibrant history and lives of Inuit, Métis, and First Nations women, Deyen also forced me to rethink and confront the truths I thought I knew. The stories and reflection in Deyen allowed me to dig deeper to further uncover the unconscious biases that I was holding on to. I embarked on my reconciliation journey about 15 years ago, and I actively work at it every day. Some moments it's more uncomfortable than others, and that's okay. Deyen was a humbling reminder that I need to continue to do the work. With wisdom and gentleness, Deyen reminds all of us that we will get a lot wrong in this journey, and that's okay. Deyen will make you a more informed human, a more informed parent, colleague, and leader. And the more informed that we are, the more each and every one of us are able to sit with our discomfort and dissect and dismantle our assumptions, the more we can live and model reconciliation in our day-to-day lives. Because fundamentally, embracing reconciliation is not about sympathy. It's about recognizing that a healed country creates a stronger, healthier, or more prosperous place for all of us. But the most important thing is once you take Deyen, because I assume all of you are going to be taking Deyen now, ask yourself, what are you doing with the knowledge it imparts onto you? You can't just take it, check the I learned box and move on. Education alone doesn't create a better world, and it doesn't support reconciliation. It is how we translate what we learned in Deyen into action. And how do you do that? As employers and managers, we invest in educating our staff and encourage them to take Deyen. We fund this out of our personal development budgets. We use our power to encourage our organizations to fulfill their responsibilities as laid out by the TRC and the calls for justice informed by the final report of the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. We stand up as active in our anti-racism, not only within ourselves, but externally, and not just on Instagram, but in the boardroom, on the video call, in the field, in that Slack chat, because I can all but guarantee each and every one of us on this call has seen it and heard it, but have we been active in calling it out? And some people may say it is hard to acknowledge your own privilege, to acknowledge your unconscious and socialized racism, and it can be uncomfortable. But really, what is discomfort? When because non-Indigenous peoples won't do the work within ourselves to change our attitudes and dismantle our biases, that Indigenous peoples continue to face systemic discrimination. If we are not actively part of the solution, we are contributing to the problem. So take Deyen, listen and learn from these amazing Indigenous women, reframe the old narratives you're stuck in, recommend it to your friends, to your family, to your colleagues, to your employer. And if you're met with resistance, don't stop. Figure out a different way. The burden of holding our families, our friends, our organizations accountable should not be on Indigenous people. We need to step up and shoulder that burden. Because as Chastity often says, reconciliation is the greatest opportunity facing every single Canadian today. And Deyen will support you to better implement reconciliation within yourself, which will allow you to implement it in your day-to-day life. Because first and foremost, if we don't do better within ourselves, how can we support change outside ourselves? If we as non-Indigenous Canadians don't understand our true shared history, then how can we support in creating a better society, both today and into the future? Thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts in Deyen.
Marissa, thank you so much. Really, thank you. That it helps us all understand, and so I really appreciate you sharing your experience and what you're working on. Okay, so we have a draw, which is exciting. I want you to know that this was all done on the up and up. I had to pre-draw the name because I don't have all of your names here in a little basket to draw it live. So what we did was we took all of the registrants and we drew from there. So what we're drawing for is the Chloe Angus and Corrine Hunt Love Collection package. And it's really wonderful that Chloe and Corrine were able to donate this and support this event that's happening today. And so we really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Chloe and Corrine. And the Love Collection package. And if this is your name, please say something in the chat if you can right now, like I'm here, thank you, or so we know and we don't draw another name because we want you to be here to get your prize. The winner of the Love Collection is Ruby Ogen. That's O-G-E-N. Ruby, are you here? Ruby, I'm looking for you in the chats. I hope you're here. It's such a beautiful package. And while we're waiting for Ruby to chat in the chats, let me look here. I don't see you yet, Ruby. I want to mention that Chloe Angus has been very generous in giving us a discount, a 15% discount, which is good until the end or till May 2nd. May 2nd, that's my birthday. How exciting. I will have to use this. So you can use the code all in caps, LOVEX, love X, and then Chastity Davis. And someone will pop that into the chat too, so that you can, there it is right there in the chat. Okay, have we heard from Ruby at all in the chat? Okay, so I'm gonna draw the next name. The next name for the Love Collection Prize is Monique Francis. Monique, are you here? Monique Francis. I hope Monique's here. Yay, there she is. Congratulations, Monique. So we will make arrangements somehow on the chat for you to get your prize. And I just want to mention again, it's a one-time use, 15% discount, Love X Chastity Davis. And again, thank you to Chloe Angus for your support of this event. Okay, we are continuing now. I'm really looking forward to hearing from our next guest. Sarah Robinson is from the Fort Nelson and Saulteau First Nations and the founder of Rainwatch Advising. Sarah is an Indigenous woman who took part in this program, and she's going to join us now and explain from her point of view why it's important for us to be, why she wanted to be a part of this project, and also the importance of learning about Canadian history through the lens of Indigenous women. So Sarah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Tamara. It's such a pleasure to be here today. Elders, chiefs, respected guests, it's truly, truly an honor to be here to support my friend Chastity today. As Tamara mentioned, my name is Sarah Robinson. I'm a very proud citizen of the Fort Nelson First Nation and the Saulteau First Nation up in Treaty 8 territory, although I'm zooming in today from the ancestral territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsilhqot'in nations, currently often called the City of Vancouver. I'm just so honored to be here to support the launch of Deyen, Canadian history through the lens of Indigenous women. This course is really so important and so significant because so many Canadians haven't had the opportunity to learn about Canada's true history because it was omitted from public school textbooks. I know that that's starting to change now, but even when I was graduating from high school in the very early 2000s, there was absolutely nothing about Indigenous peoples, and certainly not about Indigenous women specifically in those textbooks. So as a result of this swath of history not being included in public schools, most Canadians are unaware that the Indian Act, as one example, which is a racist piece of federal legislation that's still in effect today, discriminated against Indigenous peoples generally on the basis of race, but additionally discriminated against Indigenous women specifically on the basis of gender. So, for example, the Indian Act anchored patriarchy in Canadian law, which undermined hundreds of Indigenous nations all across Turtle Island that followed matriarchal governance systems. The Indian Act also intentionally assimilated Indigenous women and children, in particular, into broader Canadian society by systemically pushing Indigenous women and children out of their communities and into urban centers. This effectively opened up their territories for settlement by industry and by non-Indigenous people. So by specifically targeting and oppressing Indigenous women and children, Indigenous nations were consequentially oppressed as well. And by pushing Indigenous women and children out of their territories, Indigenous nations, again, consequentially lost control of much of their original traditional territories. So if you're not entirely following me or straight up maybe have no idea what I'm talking about, then Deyen is a call to action directed right at you. So I encourage everybody who's here today to check this course out, take time to learn about Canada's true history from the lens of Indigenous women, teach your children, talk to your family, talk to your friends about the things that you've learned, and just know that if you're feeling uncomfortable, it means you're learning. I know that some of the moments in which I am truly, truly transformed are the moments that I'm sitting in very deep discomfort, wrestling with all of the kinds of feelings that come along with doing this hard work. But do know that if you choose to continue living in this country, you have a responsibility to learn its true history and to work to build a better, stronger country that all of our children will be proud of. So I couldn't be more thrilled that this launch is happening. Chastity, I'm so proud of you. I love you so much. I'm so excited for you. I encourage everybody who's here today to check out this course ASAP. And thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That's wonderful. I really appreciate your words, and thank you so much for that. I noticed that our chat on the side is very active and very positive, and there's lots of information in the chat. I don't know if you've had, maybe some have not had a chance to look at the chat, but the Deyen team is in there putting up lots of links about the things that we're talking about, and also any of the codes that you need. And it's all up there in the chats, and feel free to be active in the chats. So, okay, as we continue, it's very exciting. I'm not sure if Bridget George is here, and I really hope she is, but I do know she had a family situation that she had to tend to, so I'm not sure if she's here, but I'll just wait until somebody tells me that she is here, I hope. And if not, I'm happy to tell you that Bridget is a pretty amazing illustrator, and she designed the, oh, there's her information in the chat. She designed the logo that you're looking at if you're on the Deyen website. And I just think it's the most beautiful logo, and I was hoping that she was here so she could tell you all about the logo, but I don't think she's here. So here we go. I'm going to continue on, and if Bridget joins us, that'll be an excellent bonus for us, and her information is coming up in the chat. Okay, so we have a really special guest here, and I say that because our next guest is someone who has been a champion for women her entire career, and many people know her from her days working with the YWCA, and hearing her talk, and watching her walk the walk, and now she is our lieutenant governor, and it's such an honor because I know that how important reconciliation and gender equity is, and it's a real pleasure to have her here. So I will let her honor do all of the speaking, but please welcome the Honorable Lieutenant Governor Janet Austin.
Thank you so much, Tamara, and it is indeed wonderful to be here with you, all of you today. I am speaking to you from the traditional territory of the Lekwungen peoples, the Songhees and Esquimalt, whom I thank for the privilege of living and working on these lands. I've been making a little bit of an effort to learn a bit of an Indigenous language, and the language that's been selected for me by elders is Tsilhqot'in. And so what I was attempting to say to you is, good day, dear friends. It's wonderful to be among you today. And I mean that so very sincerely. Thanks also to Syexwaliya and Whonnock for the gift of a traditional blessing, and to all of you who will carry the stories and lessons that we share today. I can't tell you how much it means to me to join you today. I want especially to thank Chastity Davis-Alphonse for her leadership on this and on so many other initiatives that have empowered the lives and raised the voices of Indigenous women and girls. I do want to thank Chastity, though. She is indeed a person with the power to transform, and she shows us that in the way she lives her life every day. I also want to thank Chief Joe Alphonse for sharing the meaning of Deyen, and for teaching us about the historic importance of the Tsilhqot'in matriarchs in the journey to win Aboriginal title. Gazoon, Chief Joe. The world needs more champions like you. I haven't forgotten your kind invitation to visit you and Chastity in your territory, and I fully intend to make that trip as soon as you will have me and when we're given permission to travel. As some of you know, and as Tamara said, I have spent much of my professional and volunteer life advocating for women's equality and working to address the systemic diversity and social, economic, and gender equality needs of our country. The voices and perspectives of Indigenous women have been a foundational part of my own journey, and I'm grateful to many of the women who join us today for the privilege of working with and learning from them. Your example has inspired me to use my power and my platform to be of help, and I've selected reconciliation as one of 3 key themes for my mandate as Lieutenant Governor. I've been deeply moved by the many Indigenous communities that are working hard to provide economic opportunities for their people, to be good stewards of their lands and waters, and to ensure the survival of their languages and culture. I see also the special challenges faced by Indigenous women and girls, as well as the unique leadership and storytelling gifts that they bring to our shared journey towards reconciliation. As the Crown's representative in British Columbia, I'm keenly aware of the importance of the relationship between First Nations and the Crown. I believe it is my responsibility to show leadership in furthering the cause of reconciliation. I'm also very conscious of the narrow and limited perspective through which we've been taught Canadian history. Reframing this history through the knowledge and voices of Indigenous women is an essential antidote to the limitations of our Eurocentric education. I look forward personally to participating in Deyen as a grateful learner and to joining your efforts to promote and amplify this really, truly splendid work. Chastity has asked me to share some personal stories about the Indigenous women who have inspired and influenced me. And so I think it is appropriate that I start with her. I first met Chastity, it's many years ago now, through the Minerva Foundation's Learning to Lead and Gathering Our Strength programs. Chastity was a leader even then, and over the years, I have felt such pride in her progress. Her expertise in Indigenous gender-based analysis is truly groundbreaking, as is her commitment to reaching out across the barriers that divide Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. I feel so very proud of you, Chastity, for the Deyen project that we celebrate today, for all that you've done in the past, and for the better future that you're helping to build. Thank you so much for everything that you do. In the past, as you also heard, I served as CEO of the YWCA, an organization committed to the full realization of women's equality in all its dimensions. The YWCA was the first organization to take seriously the appalling conditions for women and children, many of them Indigenous, in Vancouver's downtown East Side. Supporting these women on the journey to personal and economic independence was a key focus for the organization and for me personally. Engaging elders and knowledge keepers and honoring cultural traditions was central to all our programs and services. Over the years, I saw many Indigenous women who participated in these programs, developed skills, and then took on roles as paid employees. These women were uniquely powerful because they stood as role models for others who walked through our doors in search of support and service. Their lived experience gave them a credibility that someone like me could never have in that context. I have enormous respect for these Indigenous women. I learned from their example about courage in the face of incredible adversity, about fearless determination, about resourcefulness, and about honesty. They inspired all of us, all of those around them, and they certainly inspired me. In my work at the YWCA, I also had the privilege of working with Dr. Kim Vanderwoord, who, as you heard, is another contributor to Deyen. Kim and I served together on the board of the Women's Health Research Institute, where she brought a very valuable perspective. And that was an experience that led me to suggest that Kim join the board of the YWCA. I've always been impressed with Kim's thoughtful, respectful approach, her generosity, and her ability to break through the boundaries that divide people and limit understanding. And of course, her expertise in using evidence and research to advance policy reforms and to shift culture. It was Kim I turned to when the YWCA wanted to make a serious commitment to reconciliation some years ago, and to embed a culture of reconciliation across all platforms in the organization. Her guidance shaped our values and informed the practical frontline work of our leadership, our staff, and our volunteers. She made the YWCA better in so many ways. Kim continues to be a guiding light for me through her support for BC's inaugural Reconciliation Award. This is a partnership we just launched between the BC Community Achievement Foundation and my office. And with Kim, we have an outstanding committee of guiding leaders and some fabulous women as well, including Dr. Judith Sayers, Chief Sophie Pierre, and Dr. Gwen Point, all of whom I rely upon for advice and guidance. I'm so grateful to them. And I would be sadly remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to thank Dr. Lorna Williams for a lifetime of superb work, for her visionary leadership on education, and her determined focus on the revitalization of Indigenous language and culture. Dr. Lorna embodies the true meaning of reconciliation in all that she does. She's also encouraged me in my own journey to learn a bit of Tsilhqot'in as a gesture of respect. And she doesn't hesitate to tell me when my pronunciation needs improvement. I love her dearly, as do you all, and I feel so very privileged to have her in my life. Thank you, Lorna. I could give many more examples, but I will mention just one more person, and that is my dear friend, former Tsawwassen Chief, Kim Baird. First elected at the age of 28, Kim negotiated and implemented BC's first modern urban treaty. She's a visionary and a brilliant strategist, a tireless champion for her people, and she is both realistic and relentless. She has demonstrated both patience and persistence in measure equal to her purpose and commands respect wherever she goes. A great leader, a great listener, a loving parent, a generous mentor, and a good friend. A powerful woman and one of the kindest and most thoughtful people I have ever known. Finally, I want to say that the time has come for all Canadians to accept and address the tragic realities that Indigenous peoples have faced for far too long. The stain of colonialism, oppression, and systemic racism that has tarnished our past. The stories and knowledge of Indigenous women offered to us through Deyen will be key in the process of reconciliation. I think of reconciliation as a revolutionary vision, and I mean that in the most positive way. But revolutions don't happen overnight if they are to herald real change. Rather, they begin in our relationships with each other, in communities, across social barriers, within families, and between generations. I honor Chief Joe, Chastity, and her collaborators, and all of you here today as my teachers, my partners and allies, my friends in that grand journey of reconciliation. Before you all, I pledge myself to the full realization of that revolutionary vision and to supporting the work of Deyen and to building a more generous, a more equal, and a more loving world. This may be a never-ending task, but it is one that makes life worth the living. Haichka.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Your Honor. Thank you. Thank you. I know that Chastity is going to, Chastity wants to say a few words, and we have some business to finish up at the end, but Chastity, are you there?
Yes, thank you, Tamara. Thank you so much, Her Honor, Janet Austin, for your support here today, and for your pledge to being a part of the revolution in Canada, and for your tireless work over the decades of realizing gender equality in our province and in our country. And I'm just so thrilled to have you with us today and to have your support moving forward to elevate and uplift Indigenous women and their voices and their knowledge. So thank you so much for coming today and being with us. I'd also really like to extend my thank you to Sarah Robinson, who is an amazing trailblazing leader, who we're so lucky to have had her be with us today. She's very busy and she does amazing advising work. So her link was in the chat. You can also Google Rainwatch advising Sarah Robinson, and we do very similar work. And if she's probably going to be like, I'm already so busy, I don't need any more work. But if you want to check her out, you can check out her website. And just so happy that you're here supporting this work, Sarah. Thank you for standing with me. And thank you to Marissa Nobauer for sharing your journey with us today, and encouraging other Canadians to take up the to join you in the reconciliation movement. And just wanting to thank you, Chief Joe, for sharing your knowledge and your journey and the warriorship of Tl'etinqox peoples and women, and sharing your language so openly with us and with the Deyen platform. Just really feel honored that this space carries forward the Tl'etinqox language. And Joe, when we were talking about the name and coming up with the name, he was saying, like, it truly is an invitation. We're not imposing anything on anyone. We're inviting you into the space. And that truly is the energy and the tone that we're going for in this training. So I just want to one more time ask if Bridget George is here to provide another opportunity before I close us today.
Hi, Chastity. I'm here.
Yay, great, awesome. So yes, awesome. Bridget is our illustrator for Canadian history through the lens of Indigenous women. And she's this beautiful, inspiring Anishinaabe woman. And she has a wonderful book out that she'll tell you about as well. And we're just so thrilled that she's on this journey with us, because as I'm learning going online with things, there's a lot of copyright laws. And so we're skirting that by bringing on, having the opportunity to bring on a beautiful Indigenous woman with so much talent and promise. Bridget George, I'll hand it over you to share some of your illustrations and your story.
Awesome, that's Chastity. First off, I just wanted to say ani everybody. Bridget Tl'etinqox, Kekonong Mima Jodnan Donjaba Makwan Doda Minishna Beninda. So I just introduced myself in my language, Ojibwe, and I just said, hello, my name is Bridget. I'm from Kettle and Stony Point First Nation in Southwestern Ontario, and I sit with the Bear Clan, and I am Anishinaabe. So I want to start off by saying miigwech to Chastity for the opportunity to create the illustrations for this powerful course. And I definitely had a lot of growth as an illustrator at the same time as I was creating these illustrations. As you'll find throughout the course, you know, sometimes when you're learning, you'll find yourself in a place of uncomfortability. And I found myself in some points in that place of uncomfortability with creating the illustrations. There's some really powerful concepts that are tackled here. And as an Indigenous woman, as a mother, going through and revisiting some of those things were a little bit difficult for me. And I just want to say that in those times when people are learning about our culture and where we are in our history, that sometimes you might find yourself in those positions of uncomfortability, but those will always come from a place of growth. So I'm super happy to have been able to grow as an illustrator and be able to tackle some topics that can be tricky sometimes. A little bit about myself. I'm a mother. I have a beautiful 2-year-old boy at home. His name is Noah. I'm a children's book author and illustrator. My first book, It's a Matig, is a dual language book. It's written in a rhyming combination of Ojibwe and English. I wrote it to kind of spark that love of language that I didn't really have growing up, and to pass along what I know to my son and other families like him. I'm very, very, very passionate about sparking a love for identity and self. So I'm super honored to have been able to pass some of that love and passion along in the illustrations that I've been able to create. I'm not sure if I'm able to share my screen here, but I do have a couple of the illustrations up to show you just a few of the things that I've been able to create. Oh, I'm not able to, I don't think here. But what you'll find as you view the illustrations throughout the course is that, oh, there we go. What you'll find as you view the illustrations throughout the course is that there's a bit of a shift. So the colors will change along with the illustrations. As you start to discuss reconciliation, you'll notice that the colors throughout the illustrations start to become more vibrant. They start to become more colorful. And I think that that's the wonderful thing about this course, is that it gives you the opportunity to kind of start on a growing journey yourself as well. So this one was one of my favorite illustrations, a killer whale pod representing family and intergenerational families. So I'll just click through a couple here. And this one was an illustration that was a little bit difficult for me to create, but I think it's one of my favorites throughout the course. Along with this one as well. So I was super excited to illustrate the idea of matriarchy and how our relationships throughout our families are interconnected. So this one is one of my absolute favorites. And then a few more here representing an Enoch woman. This one is actually one of my favorites. I've shown a few of my family members this one, and it's my favorite because every time I show it to someone new, they always make the point to point out, hey, that looks like my auntie, or oh my gosh, that looks like my grandmother. So it's really nice to be able to create work where people can see themselves in their work or in your work as well. And some other illustrations that I created that are my favorite, just because I feel like they're the most impactful, are the final two that I'm going to show you here. And that is it for me. I feel like I've got some big shoes to fill listening to everybody else's well-spoken words. I'm definitely more of a visual person, but I just wanted to end off by saying miigwech to Chastity and miigwech to the Deyen team for giving me the opportunity to create the visuals to go behind so much powerful women's words, and miigwech.
Hi, Bridget. I'm Tamara. It's nice to see you. Your art is stunning and beautiful, breathtaking. Thank you for sharing it with us. I didn't know if you were here earlier, so and I also made a mistake. I said that you designed the logo, and I know that you did all the illustrations for the course, and Andrew Dexel did the logo. So now I have that right. So I apologize for that error earlier. And thank you for sharing your illustrations with us. It really helps paint the picture of the course and the story that you were able to help share with everybody. So thank you so much. Okay, we are at the end, I think, Chastity, and we have a few more things to do. I know that there's another draw and some more information to share. So I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Tamara, and thank you so much, Bridget, for coming today, even with the family situation that you had. It's wonderful to have your energy here. And I just really want to encourage people to order Bridget's book. We put the link in the chat. It's called It's a Matig. And Bridget's the author of that children's book and also the illustrator. And it's about promoting her Ojibwe language. And so also just, I'm going to take liberties to say that Bridget is going to stay on with the Deyen team for other modules as well. So we're really happy to have her here. And it's just important to include Indigenous women's creativity when we're looking at images and visuals, as Bridget embodies the lived experience and the blood memory of her ancestors, and is the conduit through her illustrations, and just super honored to have her here. So her information was in the chat as well, where you can find her on Instagram, and her website is bridgetgeorge.com. So thank you, Bridget. So we have another draw for 4 people to have a full scholarship into Deyen's first set of modules, Canadian History Through the Lens of Indigenous Women. I'm going to read out the names. Tara Zwain, Z-W-A-A-N, Leanne Lee, Tanea Robbins, and Doreen William Grinder. So I'll read them again. Tara, I see that you're here. Awesome. Leanne Lee, Tanea Robbins, and Doreen William Grinder. We will follow up with the 4 women who have won full scholarships into the Canadian history through an Indigenous lens. Super happy that you're here and that you're going to take part with us for the 4. And just a reminder that the 15% discount is for the first 100 people, and you'll see that in the chat as well. I want to cue Adira to play the short video featuring the 6 women who have graciously shared their voices, lived experience, and wisdom.
Your sense of culture really comes from within and your ancestors and where you're from.
I'm going to talk about my parents, more specifically my father's story. The things he also kept repeating was that nothing was impossible. All it takes is determination and effort.
In my language, a Tl'etinqox is usually done by women at gatherings, her ideas of what people needed to do to live a better life. If you really translate it, it's kind of to slap people around with your mouth.
When I think about reconciliation, I think about the importance of changing the narrative about who we are. One aspect of our history that we don't focus in on enough is the fact that we were resilient. We are resilient.
Indigenous women are fierce, and we're fierce about taking care of each other and about taking care of our communities and taking care of our planet. And we carry a lot of that burden and a lot of that weight with absolute grace. That's what you're seeing.
Yes, we have been displaced, but what we choose to do every day, what we choose to do when we wake up in the morning and we get ready to go conquer the day is definitely something that comes from within.
You're climbing to the top of Mount Hope, but it's slogging through pain and trauma to get there. It makes the day-to-day difficult while also recognizing that the lifetime achievement that you're seeking is also worthwhile.
This is the first set of modules that we will be releasing at Deyen. They're called Canadian History Through the Lens of Indigenous Women, and the course price is $297. It includes 4 2.5-hour modules and 2 live 75-minute Zoom calls over 7 weeks. So in total, it's about 8 to 12 hours. And the course curriculum is 100% online. It consists of audio, videos, visuals, some of what you've seen today by Bridget, songs and reflection exercises, and it's through the online learning platform, deyen.ca. So normally when I give these courses live, you're getting about $4,000 of value for $297 online. So just wanting to share that normally the courses when they're facilitated live and with 8 to 12 hours are about $4,000, and we're offering it to you online for $297. Next slide. And each module will cover, module 1 through 4 will cover different aspects of history through the lens of Indigenous women and as it relates to the creation of Canada and our history of Canada and our current reality. So module 1 will cover 17 to 1800s, module 2 will be 1800 to 1900s, module 3 will be 1900s to 2000s, and module 4 will cover truth and reconciliation and our path forward. And after module 2, there'll be a live Zoom call that you can participate in, and I'll be facilitating. We can have dialogue and I can answer questions and we can dive deeper into the content with your cohort members. And after module 4, we'll have another live Zoom call that will be hosted by myself and facilitated by myself. We'll have some dialogue and we'll have some questions, and woven into all those modules are videos of the amazing women. Next slide. of the amazing Indigenous women that we talked about here today, and Sarah Robinson represented them so well. Sarah Robinson, who came from the Fort Nelson and Saulteau First Nations. We have Denise Williams from the Kwakwaka'wakw tribes, Shireen Banyi from the Métis Nation, Dr. Lorna Williams from Lilwatu'ul, Dr. Kim Vanderwoord from the Namgis Nation, and last but certainly not least, Maureen Grubin from the Inuit community. And so we have a wide variety of voices sharing about the creation of Canada as it relates to Indigenous women and Indigenous peoples. And these beautiful matriarchs and knowledge keepers have shared their knowledge for Deyen, and their voices are woven through in the videography that was created by Adira and Spiro Creative. Next slide. And here's the cohorts, Canadian History Through the Lens of Indigenous Women. We're offering 3 cohorts right up front, April 1st to May 21st. So you have some options if you're just totally swamped right now. And you can sign up now for cohort 1 or cohort 2 that starts in June, or cohort 3 that starts in September. And we'll also have subsequent cohorts starting after October as well, in November and beyond. And we're doing a cohort style so that we can go through the courses through 7 weeks of the 8 to 12 hours of content together and learn together, even though it's self-directed learning. We could have the opportunity to learn together and be on those Zoom calls together and share our experiences. As Marissa talked about, it's about learning, and then there's lots of opportunity to journal and have some reflection as well. So you can find all of that on deyen.ca. And also, you could look at chastitydavis.com for more information on those programs. And I just want to end, before I give it back over to Tamara, with a thank you to the list of sponsors. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is an individual, this is my individual contribution to the movement. And I've had many individuals step forward. All the speakers today, Her Honor Janet Austin, Bridget George, Tamara Taggart stepping forward to host, Sarah Robinson, Chief Joe, Marissa Nobauer, everyone stepped forward to come and share their experience and be a part of the launch. And then the official sponsors of all of Deyen is Spiro Creative. They've done the videography and the marketing and the tech behind the launch. Indigenous Indigenous, Bradley Shend, who's here every week advising on technology and how to do this in a good way. So much love for you, Bradley, for being here. You'll start to see all the sponsors coming up in the chat on the right. Capilano University stepped forward and provided 2 students to work on graphic design and the tech component. And both of them are here today, Rachel Wong and Haluka Yagi. And they're both 4-year graphic design students. They're going to be out on the market looking for work. So if you love the design that you're seeing for Deyen, these 2 very talented young women have put in countless hours to make it look beautiful and inviting and fit within our theme of an invitation to transform. So thank you so much, Rachel and Haluka. They're sort of behind the scenes, making sure everything's going well. And they're our Deyen FAQ today as well. So thank you so much. Also want to acknowledge Carol Aiken, who is the supervising professor and just a wealth of knowledge through Capilano University, Doreen Manuel, and the Indigenous Accelerator through Capilano University. Also, MyTax came forward to support the 2 students as well. So thank you to MyTax. The audio that you're going to hear is from Dave Ogilvie, who is this amazing audio designer who works for Brian Adams' studio and just like done some amazing things in his career and in his life, and normally produces audio for people like 9 Inch Nails and Brian Adams and all these people, but stepped forward out of the goodness of his heart to put together the audio design for the program. So thank you so much, Dave Ogilvie, for your support and just really helping me through that technology piece. I also want to again recognize Chloe Angus Design and her beautiful team. She came forward and donated the love package, and she collaborated with Corrine Hunt, Kwakwaka'wakw and Tlingit artist, to donate that love package. She also designed my wedding dress and other things. So Chloe, thank you for your continued support and for that 15% for everyone that's on this call today. Thank you, Chloe, for that. I want to recognize NPOC, Andrew Dexel, for the logo design. And he's designed all of my logos for Chastity Davis Consulting and my yoga business. Thank you for your continued support. He's an amazing designer. Check him out online. He said he wanted to stay low profile as he's focusing on school and family, but I have to say that he's been amazing too. And want to also recognize Williams Lake First Nation radio station for allowing me to record there, and the Tl'etinqox Women's Council and the Tl'etinqox government, my husband's community. They provided the opening songs for each of the modules. So when you get on, you're going to have an opening drum song and prayer song to start you off in a good way for each of the modules. So thank you so much to the Tl'etinqox Women's Council and the Tl'etinqox community for your support and standing behind this project. I believe I've thanked all of the sponsors, and I want to thank you again to the speakers. You're all going to get a beautiful Chloe Angus sponsored gift in the mail if you haven't gotten it already. And thank you so much for all of your support. And I look forward to seeing all of you online with Deyen. And I just want to express my gratitude for everyone who took the time out of their busy day before a long weekend to take the time to be a part of this launch, and to think it important enough and to accept the invitation to transform through the knowledge, the lived experience of the original matriarchs of this land. Thank you very much. I'll hand it back over to Tamara to close us.
Thank you, Chastity. Thank you so much. I do have a quick question for you, Chastity, before we go. When we think about this course, is this a course that is suitable for our children of a certain age? Maybe you could talk just for a second about who this course is suitable for.
Yes, thanks, Tamara. It's suitable for, I would say, children, adolescents, adults, elders, all ages, who want to learn and who want to learn about the creation of Canada as it relates to Indigenous peoples. So it's suitable for that, for all audiences.
Perfect. That's amazing. Chastity, thank you for including me. Thank you for being such an amazing connector and just a charismatic, wonderful person who is so gracious and kind in sharing your knowledge and bringing everyone together. And this is an invitation that I think everyone can agree here today is pretty special. And we're thankful that you have done this with such an amazing group of people to bring all of us together. So thank you very much. Thank you to all of you for being here.